How you doing? I'm Big D. Thank you for stopping in and spending a few minutes of your day with me. But what I'd like to tell you and what I'd like to talk about today is what is possibly going to happen with silver. No one knows for sure, but silver is very volatile. And what I have to tell you, you're going to want to hear it till the end. So listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you, you could be that it could be the difference between you retiring wealthy or dying broke in a country that no longer exists as you know it. Now, silver's not going up. It's not just going up. How does that? Silver's about to explode, in my opinion, and others, but you have to hear me out. Now, it's going to go up in a way that will make every other bull market in history look like a rounding error. And I don't care if you believe me or not, but listen to me at the very end and use what I give you and do your own due diligence and look into this, because this is something you have to know, especially if you care about money and your family. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about your money. Right now, your money is about to evaporate because money might not be money tomorrow. It is, our currency is taking a hit hardest over the last 30, 40 years. Now, your money is about to evaporate if you don't take action immediately. A piece of paper, your dollar bill, if you wake up tomorrow morning and they decide that we're Venezuela and it's worth nothing, that's what you're going to have. But if you have a piece of silver, that's always going to be something tradable. And also, usually if the dollar drops, the price of silver and gold go up. Now, the paper silver market just collapsed over 40% in a matter of days. And while the financial media is screaming that the rally is over, remember a couple weeks ago, went up to $122 for a piece of silver. And now it's down to, well, it dropped all the way back to about $70. It's already back to about $79, $80. Can't look at the numbers right now. But while the financial media is screaming the rally of that is over, I'm telling you the exact opposite. This crash wasn't the end of anything. It was the ignition point. Now, if you're listening to this and you're someone who is preparing for retirement, or even if you are in retirement, this is still a huge investment. Now, the smart money, the big money, the sovereign wealth funds and industrial buyers who actually understand how markets work, they're not panicking. They're positioning. And so shouldn't we. They're positioning, and if you're just sitting there thinking you're missing the boat, you've already missed the boat, there's still plenty of time. If you're already a stacker and you're thinking, well, the price is to whatever it was just a couple of weeks ago, and then it came back. Do I want to sell? Don't sell. This is my opinion, but I would not sell. What is going to happen? You're going to want to be a part of it if you have silver in your pocket and your safe or wherever you're going to keep it. Now, you're about to make possibly the biggest financial mistake of your life if you do sell it. And if you just sit back and you aren't a stacker, silver stacker, and you have nothing. You want to be that guy that says, I had the chance to jump in on Google, but I didn't. And then look at what Google has become. Now, the numbers don't lie, and the numbers are screaming that we're at a verge of physical silver shortage so severe that the price won't matter anymore. Only availability will. You are either going to be on the right side of this trade, or you're going to be a sucker holding worthless paper They call it a dollar. They call it the US currency. And this worthless paper promises, while the real metal disappears, because if you've been following my channel, you've known all about what's going on. Now, which side are you going to choose? Before I go any further, please subscribe. You're going to like this, but like I said, wait till the very end to make your position on if you like this channel or not, or the information. You got to hear it all. But at the very end, make sure you subscribe if you like what you hear. I'm trying to build this channel, and I'm going to need you. This is something that we all need to hear. And I am glad that I was able to figure this out in time so I can take care of my family as well. So don't forget to hit the like button. Smash the notification bell for all so you get all of my updates, and hit the like button. It only takes a second. I promise. There's no pain. Now, every single video that I put out is designed to protect your wealth and show you exactly where the smart money is moving. Now, winners take action. Losers make excuses. Which one are you? Let me tell you exactly what is going to happen in the silver market, because it's not some conspiracy theory. This is mathematics. This is supply and demand. And this is the biggest transfer of wealth opportunity that you're going to see in your lifetime. And you could be a part of this. The system that has controlled silver prices for decades is breaking down in front of your eyes. And most people are too blind to see it. And the ones that are not blind, they know what's going on. They're telling you to sell because, like I said, the supply is at extreme lows, never before seen in history. You don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the COMEX, you can look at the LBMA, you can look at the Shanghai. All of those silver markets are very low. January 1st, 2026, Shanghai, or China, put out that we are no longer going to sell to the West. That was one of the little blips in the China versus US. You know, that's one of them. But if you look at their levels, you can see why. They don't have enough to supply their own demand for solar panels and electronics and things like that. Same thing with India. Now, the paper market, the future contracts, the leverage ETFs, all of that garbage that Wall Street uses to manipulate prices, fake paper silver is how they've manipulated the price for multiple years. Now, it's collapsing under its own weight right now. And while the paper price crashed 40%, something very different has happened, or it has been happening in the physical market. Premiums are they're real for unreal silver and bars went through the roof. Dealers ran out of inventory within days. Delivery time stretched into months. Now, if you know anything about silver and buying say a lot of silver, right? Not a lot of silver, a simple lot. How about that? It used to take just a few days to get it out the door and on the way to you. Now, it's multiple weeks. There's been delays in those multiple weeks, and it's been longer, much longer. I had someone that told me that it took them 2 months to get it, and that was all the way back into December. Now, delivery stretch into months, and you have to understand, the big players, the ones who actually move markets, they stood for delivery on the COMEX. Record numbers. December saw the largest physical delivery month in history. on the COMEX since 1974. Well, the open of the COMEX in 1974. Now, 68 million ounces of silver were delivered while the paper price was crashing. Does that sound bearish to you? Does that sound like a top of a price of silver is in? Let me be crystal clear. The crash you just witnessed was a paper market event engineered by banks and exchanges to shake out the weak hands and to kill any rally before it goes out of control. That's usually how they do it. But here's what they didn't count on. The physical market has completely disconnected from the paper charade. While they are dumping future contracts in the middle of the night when liquidity was lowest, real buyers were stepping in and taking actual metal off the market. And this is how shortages start. Not when prices are going up, but when prices crash and nobody can find a real thing. And that is exactly what's happening right now. So let me break down this manipulation, because this is critical. The CME, the exchange where silver futures trade, raised margins requirements 6 times in 30 days. Think about that, 6 times in 1 month. They raised the cost to hold a futures position so aggressively that it forced a massive liquidation event. Traders who were using leverage got wiped out. Margin calls swept through the market and the price collapsed almost overnight. But here's where the part that they don't want you to understand. This is the same playbook they used in 1980 when silver hit $50 an ounce. Back then, they changed the rules in the middle of the game. They banned new long positions and raised margins until the market exploded. They did it again in 2011. They raised margins 5 times in just 9 days, triggering a 36% crash that killed the rally also. This isn't about market health. This is about control. Every single time silver shows signs of breaking free from its artificial ceiling, the regulators and the big banks slam it back down. Now don't forget, JP Morgan, this bank, well, they've been busted twice for doing this type of practice. The last time it cost them almost $1 billion in fines. But here's the irony, and this is where you need to pay attention. Every time they suppress the price through these tactics, they make the physical shortage worse. They push demand underground. They force real buyers to accumulate in artificial low prices. And they make the eventual breakout even more violent. What we're watching is not a market correction itself. This is what they try to push to you. If you're listening to any of the professionals on the deep state media, we're watching a pressure cooker with the valve held shut. And eventually that pressure has to be released. And when it does, the explosion is going to be catastrophic for anyone caught on the wrong side. That's if you're not a stacker versus someone who is stacking and taking care of their family. Now, I'm not telling you about this because I got a bunch of silver I want to sell you. I don't have anything but my disclaimer in my description and a few things about myself. So I don't have silver to sell, so I'm not trying to push you into my area. I'm not going to send you to SD Bullion or JM Bullion or one of those to go buy silver. So what is my goal? That is to help you. I know some of you still don't believe me. You think it's just another pump scheme or hype hype from some gold bug who's been wrong for 20 years. Let's talk about facts. Silver has been a supply deficit for consecutive years now. I'm going to say it's more like 7, 8 years. But I think they'll come out and go, well, it's probably been about 5. But does it matter how long the deficit is? If there's a deficit for at least 2 years, you have to understand it's going to continue. Every year, new demand comes up, like the new Samsung battery. It requires a huge amount of silver. Every year, there's more solar panels that are needed than it was the previous year. The demand is excessive, and now the supply is not there. Now that means global demand has exceeded mine production for at least 5 years, what they'll actually tell us we're in a deficit for. And 2026 is on track for the worst deficit yet. Mining output is flatlining. The grades coming out of the existing mines are falling. The cost is rising and new discoveries are almost non-existent. At the same time, industrial demand is exploding. Solar panels alone are consuming 20% of the global silver supply, and that number is growing every single year. Electric vehicles, same thing. 5G infrastructure, advanced electronics, military applications, artificial intelligence servers. One server, they call them chips, right? But it's a complete unit. Hundreds of pounds that make up these servers. When they talk about the NVIDIA chips, a NVIDIA chip, probably at least a couple 100 pounds for the smaller ones. Never knew that. When I looked into these chips, they are for things like AI, because the amount of processing that it can do in a very short period of time for thousands of people at any given time. Now the artificial intelligence servers are just getting more and more prevalent of need for these. Google's involved. Tesla is involved. There's so many companies out there that are asking for these things, and they can't keep up because the demand of silver is causing them to be on a shortage as well and slowing down the manufacturing process. Now, all of it requires silver, huge amounts of silver. I don't think we'll ever know how much silver. Military. One missile that costs a huge amount of money requires a huge amount of silver as well. And the military will not release the data of how much silver they use every year. And I don't think they buy it through the normal channels, so to speak. So unlike gold, which mostly sits in a vault and gets gets recycled, and silver gets consumed. After silver is done with its product, you take your laptop, your cell phone, whatever, you're pretty much done with it. And when a laptop or a TV gets smashed or whatever, that's silver in there. That's done. No one grabs them and goes and recycles them. It's not like a computer where they recycle the gold. Now, once it's used, these industrial applications, it's gone. You cannot get it back economically. Someone might want to do that, but when it was, say, $18, and we're only talking 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that, $18 an ounce. You can see how it has gone up in price and why you should be part of it. It took 50 years from 1980, almost 50 years or whatever it is to get to this level. It's because of the suppression. They've suppressed it for so long that they've been stockpiling it, I'm sure, meaning all these countries, the companies, these different reasons for, I'm sure the military has a stockpile because no one seems to be scared about it. But again, maybe it's need to know information. Now, this is not a temporary imbalance. This is a structural crisis. And why the paper market is crashing, something very telling was happening. And don't forget, United States, only a matter of just a few months, I think it was October of 2025, they put on the critical minerals list, which is silver is a mineral, silver. This is going to be crazy. So there's so many reasons why you should get some silver stacking and make sure your family's taken care of. Now, the cost to borrow physical silver exploded higher. Normally, these rates are 0.25%, maybe 0.5%. They spiked to 8 to 9%. When it costs that much to borrow real metal, the market is screaming one thing: we don't have enough. And then you have backwardization, which is when the spot price is higher than the futures price. That means people are willing to pay a premium to get silver right now instead of waiting for a delivery next month. And that only happens when trust in the system breaks down. When backwardization combines with skyrocketing lease rates, that's the tell. That's the market screaming that a shortage is real. And it's happening right now. And here's what really exposed the manipulation. Now, TD Bank, one of the major players, put on a massive short position in silver right at the worst possible time. They shorted silver in the market that was already in backwardization with a financial suicide, which is financial suicide. You don't short something when people are paying a premium for immediate delivery. You don't short a critical mineral that just got classified by the U.S. government as a strategically importance. But they did it anyways. But why? Because they had to. They were trapped. They had obligations that couldn't meet. And they tried to manipulate the price lower to cover their exposure. They even sent out a report saying that they thought silver was going to $45. And then they got stopped out at about 92. They lost hundreds of millions of dollars on that trade. This wasn't strategy. This was forced buying. This was a bank in trouble trying to survive. And when you see major institutions get caught in short squeezes in a market this tight, you know the game is almost over. The paper manipulation only works when people believe the paper is as good as the physical. But that belief is shattering. Every time they dump paper contracts to push the price down, physical buyers step in and drain the vaults every single time. And sooner or later, the vaults are going to be empty. I want to point out one more thing. Every time New York, the COMEX, shows whatever the price is, right? Usually, Shanghai shows a price of 10, 15, 20%, maybe even higher than what the COMEX is. So why wouldn't companies buy tons of silver out of the COMEX and then fly it out to Shanghai and sell it there? Because I'm sure they'll buy everything you got. Exactly, because of the deficit of silver. Now then, let's see. The vaults are empty in majority of the major trading facilities, COMEX, LBMA, Shanghai, like we talked about. So what's going to happen at that point? Then the real price discovery begins. And it's going to be ugly for anyone holding paper promises. If you own a piece of paper that says you have 1,000 ounces, 2,000, whatever it is, Do you think that's going to be worth anything? Hopefully, you can get your money back. Until it happens, because I don't think this has ever happened in history, I don't know if that's going to be a possibility, especially when banks are involved. Now let's talk about what the smart money is doing, because this is where you separate the winners from the losers. While retail investors were panicking and selling during the crash, which I would not tell anybody to do. I'm not going to tell you to do anything, but selling your silver with what I know is coming, what I really truly believe is coming. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But the bid players, they're accumulating. Sovereign wealth funds, industrial buyers, tech companies, they weren't selling, they were buying. In fact, bullion dealers were reporting record orders, not cancellations. Sovereign mints are backed up for years. The U.S. Mint can't keep up with demand. The Royal Canadian Mint is stretched thin, and wholesalers are scrambling to find inventory. This is not theory. This is reality. Now, Andy Shackman, who runs one of the largest precious metal firms in the country, has been sounding the alarm that the COMEX and the LBMA are sitting on razor-thin registered inventory. And once confidence is in those institutions break, there will not be enough metal to meet the surge in demand. So try to get your silver as soon as possible. Okay, before we get back into it, you got to understand, if you're buying from any of those locations, JM Bullion, SD Bullion, they're going to want not only a little bit of a premium, maybe a big premium, but then they're going to want more money depending on how you pay them. So let me give you a for instance. Say if it's $80, $5 more for a premium. Let's say $2 to $5, $10, whatever it is. Then you have your bank saying, okay, if you pay with credit card, it's going to be $2, $3 more. If you pay with your bank account, it's going to be this much. And whatever else they have. They might even have a way to use crypto now. I don't know. But I have not wanted to do any of that. So I always find either a metals show going on where you can buy silver. My area, every third week of every month. Usually, they take the summer off, but you can also look into and try to get a confidence with a local coin shop or pawn store, someone that, not a normal pawn shop, because they might just have a few pieces of silver lying around. You might want to look into something that has a backing by a silver or gold supplier. Those types of pawn shops, they're legit. They know what they're buying and selling, and they'll help teach you as well. So let's get back to the show. Okay, so the crash you just saw was actually a catalyst. A forced physical demand to explode while paper price fell. And that sent a massive warning signaling to anyone that was paying attention. This is exactly how shortages begin. Not when prices are soaring, but when prices crash and physical metal disappears. The deeper the discount in the paper market, the louder the alarm of the physical market is. And right now, the alarm is deafening. History is very clear on this pattern. In 2008, silver dropped from $21 to $9. So $21 all the way down to $9 in a matter of months. Everything said the bull market was over. Everyone said, you're done. You just lost $11, $12, depends on, where you were able to get rid of it. If you got rid of it, and hopefully you did not. Can you imagine buying silver back then? $9. Whew. Wish I was that guy. I wasn't smart back then. I am now. Now, everyone said the bull market was over. But what followed? A 3-year rally that took silver to $49. Now in 2020, the pandemic crash that sent silver down to $11. Another time I missed. Took me a while to get my brains. Now, people were convinced it was finished, but within months, it exploded at $29. Every single time silver crashes, the weak hands get flushed out, and then the real move begins. Now, remember 2020 and all those other dates, we weren't in a deficit. You know, you could get silver if you wanted it. Now, we are watching what exact same setup play out right now. The speculators who are using leverage, well, they got wiped out. The real investors who were chasing momentum got scared and sold. But the big money, the institutional buyers, the sovereign wealth funds, they understand something that the average investor does not. Price is temporary. Positioning is everything. When silver crashes, then you see blood in the streets, and they buy aggressively because they know what's coming next. And what comes next is a rally that makes the cash look like a rounding error. And then you have a regulatory warfare, which I've already touched on. But I need to dive into this point home, drive this point home because it's critical. The CME raises margins 6 times in 30 days. This is mind-blowing. This is unprecedented. This is nuclear option. They only do that when they want to deliberately kill a rally. But here's what they didn't expect. The bid buyers standing for delivery on the COMEX aren't using margins. Sovereign wealth funds don't trade on leverage. Industrial buyers don't care about margin calls. They need a physical memo and they're willing to pay for it. So when the CME raised margins, it wiped out the speculators, but it didn't stop the real buyers. In fact, it gave them a better entry point. December deliveries hit an all-time record high. That tells you everything you need to know. The manipulation is failing. The old playbook isn't working anymore. And the more they try to suppress the price, the worse the physical shortage becomes. This is a pressure cooker, and the valve is, well, we already talked about that. Let me give you, here it is. And they concluded on if gold replaced the dollar in central bank reserves, the price of gold could surpass $39,000 per ounce. If you use M2 money supply, that number goes to $184,000 per ounce. Now, most people hear that and think it's insane. It is. I mean, come on. It sounds crazy, right? But the math is simple. Central banks hold trillions of dollars in liabilities. And if they had to back that with gold reserves, the price would have to go up dramatically because the balance to balance the equation. And here's where silver comes in. Historically, the gold and silver ratio has oscillated between 15-1 and 80-1. I have seen it higher, but I'm just going with an average. Now, right now, gold is near record highs, but silver is still suppressed. If the ratio reverts to its historical norms and gold goes to 39,000, where does that put silver? Even at a conservative 50-1 ratio, you're looking at $780 an ounce. At a 20-1 ratio, you're looking at $2,000 an ounce. And if you account for the fact that silver is not just monetary metal, but also a critical industrial commodity in a short supply, the upside becomes even more extreme. Andy Scheckman is calling for $1,000 silver. And if he ain't a professional that you want to hear talk about silver, there's nothing I can do for you then. But if Andy Schectman is putting the word out, and I get a lot of my research from Andy Schectman, then everybody's lying. That's talking about an advancing of a silver coin, right? And that's not based on hype. It's based on structural fundamentals, a broken paper market, collapsing inventories, exploding industrial demand, de-dollarization of the US dollar, central banks hoarding assets, hard assets. And all of it is converging at the same time. And when that convergence hits, the repricing won't be gradual. It will explode, probably for the first time in history. Now, silver's been around for thousands of years. And for thousands of years, it's been used as purchasing. Now, this is the binary decision that separates winners from losers. You can either be a holder of physical metal or be the victim of the paper system, or have nothing. You could just be sitting back and watching everybody else become wealthy. Now, there is no middle ground anymore. The banking system is turning against you. There are stories coming out of people trying to wire large funds to buy precious metals and having the banks block the transaction. I heard someone that had threatened legal action and drive to another state just to get her own money out of the bank. The bank told her she was going to get scammed. That's what they told her, so they didn't give her the money to buy the silver. You think the banks are involved? Hell yeah, they're involved. They're the ones who get in trouble all the time. Like I told you about the JP Morgan deal. Almost $1 billion in fines. Now they tried to stop her from accessing her own funds. And when she finally got the wire through, the message was clear. It is easier to put your money into a bank than to get it out. Now, if a bank ever tells you that you cannot get your money when you want it, you pull every penny. Well, I can't tell you to do that, but it would be a good idea to pull every penny out of that bank and find a new bank immediately. Unfortunately, that's how they are. A couple years ago, when the past administration was in, I saw what we were working on, and I started seeing all the banks failing and the Federal Reserve running out of money, bailing out those types of banks. I started getting a little nervous. So I went to my bank and said, I want to get all my money out except for this amount that I'm going to leave in there. And every, where my paycheck goes in, so I could pay bills. Took me 3 weeks. I think it was 3 weeks to get my money out. You had to fill out a piece of paper. I said, you can't just go into the back, grab my money, come back out, go into your safe. Oh no, we don't carry cash like that. I'm like, this is crazy. It blew me away. Now, these banks are not there to serve you. They're in control of you. And this is only going to get worse. Now, with the Genius Act rolling out, the entire financial system is moving to a blockchain-based stablecoin. This is what I truly believe. And I'm going to have another show on this. So if you'd like to hear what I have to say, please subscribe so you can get the notifications. And if you don't want to subscribe right now, keep looking for me, because you're going to want to see these. There's a lot going on that you're not being told on deep state media. Now, everything will be tracked. Anti-money laundering. Know your client. Know your transaction. They will know what you are doing, who you are, and where your money came from. Privacy is disappearing. And in that world, have something outside the system, something physical that you control that is not just smart, it's an essential. So meaning silver in an area that no one knows about is a good idea. Nice little safe, a quality safe. Now, some of you might be thinking about paper alternatives like PSLV, the SPAT Physical Silver Trust. And look, if you're going to own paper, PSLV is better than the garbage ETFs like SLVs. Still, would never put a penny in any of that though. Now, it's a closed end fund, which means you get regular capital gains treatment instead of the collectible tax rate. It's managed by Eric Spat, who actually knows what he's doing. And the silver is stored at the Royal Canadian Mint. But here's the problem. You're paying a management fee of 40 to 50 basis points every year. And you still don't have the metal in your own hands. My opinion is if you don't hold it, you don't own it. You can take delivery, but only in 10,000 ounce bars. Isn't that crazy? Which is not practical for most people. Compared that to the stored physical silver in a Brinks facility, where the storage cost is less than what you pay Sprat, and is tax deductible as part of your cost basis. If you spend $100,000 on silver and pay $1,000 in storage, your cost basis becomes $100 to $1,000. You get a physical metal, but you get lower fees. I want to store it myself. I know it's something that you got to be concerned with because of security. You got to get the right safe. You got to have insurance. It's my opinion, a must. But those are something that you have to deal with and come up on your own and figure it out on your own. But most importantly, you eliminate counterparty risks in a world that is becoming increasingly digital and less private. Having real metal that you physically control is the press ultimate insurance policy. And if you've watched The Great Taking, you understand why anything that is scrutinized is at risk. When the system collapses, they will come for your paper asset first. But they cannot take what you physically possess, especially if no one knows it. So if you buy through JM Bullion, SD Bullion, even right now, there's a paper trail. But if you buy from a pawn shop and no one knows who you're, they're not going to go, oh, what's your name? What's your social security? What's this? What's that? Unless they're getting this craziness going on. But try to buy it without someone knowing. So let me be very clear about what you should do, or what something that a recommendation of what you should do. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Here we go. Someone's going to rip me a new one in the comment section. Do not buy odd weight coins. If someone is trying to sell you a 1/3 ounce, 1.5 ounce, 1.25 ounce coins, run. Those are scam products. The U.S. Mint makes 1 ounce, 1/2 ounce, 1/4 ounce, 1/10 ounce. That's it. Anything else is a red flag. Do not buy premium coins unless you're an actual collector. Try to buy for weight, not for collector purposes, and then you're going to possibly you're thinking you're going to get millions of dollars for the one coin down the road. I don't know. But the proof coins and special editions, the fancy packaging, that's all, my opinion, garbage. You're paying double and triple the price of metal that has the same intrinsic value as a bullion coin. What you want is commercial strike bullion. American Silver Eagles, Canadian Maple Leafs, whatever you prefer. Simple rounds, just simple, pretty little bars, up to, and my opinion is you don't want to get too heavy, maybe a kilo at the most. because when it goes skyrocketing, and yes, I do believe it will go skyrocketing. Don't make me, okay? How are you going to sell something like a kilo if it's a lot of money? You got to find someone with a big pocket full of money somewhere. So it's either going to be to sell 1 little ounce than it is, say 100 ounce or 1,000 ounce bar. Now, if a dealer is pushing you away from bullion and into premium products, they're ripping you off, in my opinion. Now, there's a whistleblower named Dale Whitaker who came out of the industry and exposed the entire scam model. He worked for one of the biggest firms, and he is now going public with how these companies operate. They sell odd weight coins at massive premiums. They pressure customers into collecting products, and they make their money on the markup, not on the value of the metal. But you got to beware. Remember, go in knowing as much as possible, listening to people like me and others so you don't get scammed. And having precious metal in your pocket, gold and silver, would be a very good idea before whatever happens. And do I believe we have much time left? No, I do not. The government just came out not long ago. They signed with multiple countries. Donald Trump signed with multiple countries. If you want to look at some of my past videos, you'll see there's a signed document with 50 plus countries in the United States that are going to put a floor of the lowest price silver can ever be sold at. And that is coming. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. But try to have a great rest of your day. Thank you for stopping in. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit it all. I'll see you on the next show. Have a great day. God bless.